Midweek Murders contains graphic and explicit content. Listener discretion is advised.
What are we? Are we Generation X? Or millennials? No, millennials are the ones that are born in the noughts.
Yeah, I don't know what we are. Miserable?
We're some kind of generation, but I don't know which one. So every time people insult one generation, I'm like, I won't take that personally because that's probably not mine. And it probably is. I think I Googled it one time because I was like, does this apply to me? It was the use of the laugh cry emoji that they were like, everyone in this generation overuses this emoji. And I was like, that's probably my generation because I use it all the time. And then it was my generation, and I was like, makes sense. People were like, nobody laughs that much, which is also true. When I send the emoji, I'm like mildly amused. But also beats the other emojis, I guess. Why do we use the laugh cry emoji? I don't know. I do laugh cry sometimes, but not that often.
Oh, I don't think I ever do.
Do you not?
What, laugh cry?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Maybe your tear canals are damaged, just like your birth canal.
Oh yeah, that's wrecked.
Okay, should we start maybe?
Whatever you wanna do.
We don't have that many beers. I feel like maybe we should get the show on the road so we don't dry out. Like our laugh cry emojis.
That's what I think the laugh cry emoji represents.
That's probably more accurate, to be honest. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Yeah, see, there you go.
For any of your listeners that are not in England, we're in like month 4 or 18 of lockdown. It's Wednesday, which means that it's time to talk about crime. You're listening to Midweek Murders, and I'm your host, Sandra.
And I'm Joe.
This week, we're going to talk about the Rajneeshee bio-terror attack, the largest bio-terror attack that has ever happened in the US.
Is it still the largest?
You know what? I'm not entirely sure, but I think so. For all you Ravenclaws out there, I dare you to contact us. Please do. I'm so lonely.
Looking at you, Jim. I would be inclined to say it was the largest bioterror attack at the time, because I think anthrax might have overtaken it.
Okay. Might be, might not be, question mark. I got my information from Wikipedia, a blog post by Dick and Kent, an article in...
Poor Kent.
Is it Dickon?
I don't know what your source is.
It's Dick and then O-N.
Oh yeah, that'd be on then, wouldn't it? Not in. Poor Kent, you're chucking dicks in him.
A blog post by Dickon Kent. It just makes it worse. Oh, God.
No, it's just on him.
An article in The Conversation by Marian Goldman, an article in The Atlantic by Scott Keyes, an article in Atlas Obscura by Dylan Thuras, an article in Gizmodo by Matt Novak.
I got mine from the WikiWiki, an NCBI article, and MSD manuals.
What is MSD?
I think it's an American website.
Okay, right, fine.
Okay, yeah.
You don't even know your sources, but alrighty then. I'll take your word as gospel.
Sorry, is Dick on or is Dick in?
I'll take your word as gospel, just like they did in this instance, with the cult leader's word. Ha ha. Sorry. Narrator, nobody liked that. Not even Sandra.
We pause here to watch the tumbleweed fly by after Sandra's failed joke.
Ooh, okay. There was an election coming up in Wasco County, Oregon in 1984, an area where tensions had been running high as the plot of land formerly known as Big Muddy Ranch, excellent name, had been bought by a cult. This cult had named the 64,000-acre plot Rajneesh, and it was a community that strived to be completely self-sufficient and for many symbolized an opportunity to lead a different life. The community was centered around the worship of one person and his teachings, a guru by the name of Rajneesh. Maybe I should tell the listeners that I tried to read up on the teachings of Rajneesh. And what I took away from that was that he mixed famous philosophers. I'm kind of guessing that the draw was a combination of Western philosophies and Eastern philosophies, but it's not clear and it's also not consistent. So I have no idea why this person became a famous cult leader, and I think that I have a skewed perception of him because I saw him in an interview saying that I've had the most sex any man has ever had in the history of this earth. More or less. That's not a direct quote, but I was like, okay, what are you, 11 years old?
And then Genghis Khan burst in from the back room and was like, doubt meme. And then instead of it being a mic drop, it was an axe drop. He just walked back out again.
Fucking true, but also, what the fuck kind of weird flex is that? Is he 11 years old?
I think some of his philosophical outlook might have been influenced by Freud. And when you said that he mixed up his philosophies, all I could think of was him saying something like the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and then having sex with your mum. Bit of Einstein, bit of Freud, mix it up.
I like that. That should be our new slogan. Maybe we will get a cult following.
I don't want to have sex with my mum.
So what happened in Russia... I just 100% smoothed over that.
Bit of brain lag there.
So what happened when you wanted to live in Rajneesh was that you had to give all of your earthly possessions to the cult, and then you worked for free, but you were kind of paid back, I assume, by the fact that you were living without choice, which some people kind of like. That you don't have to decide about what kind of job you would want to have or applying for jobs, and you don't have to decide about if you're going to buy a property because you got lodgings and you got a job handed to you, so you didn't have to worry about anything. So I guess that was the draw.
Probably wasn't any council tax either.
Probably not. Although you did hand over all your money.
I'd hand over all my money if I didn't have to pay council tax.
Fair enough. And also, I think one of the biggest draws was that it was kind of sex for all. You didn't have to be married to have sex. You could be married and not divorced and have sex. You know, it was a bit of a sexually liberated environment. So one person who lived at the ranch answered this to the question of why Rajneesh was so adored. For me, he was a well-read university professor who was very good at combining Eastern mysticism, philosophy, elements of religion, and good jokes to create a compelling message that resonated with the people looking for something different.
Sounds like me.
You're so into that Eastern mysticism.
Oh, yeah.
He had a good brand, and I'm not saying this cynically. He put together a good package at the right time to appeal to many, many people. This is undeniable. More and more people came to see him in India, and I think he got swept up in the fame and adoration of all that attention. And again, I would like to say that this is the man who said, I have had more sex than any man in history of this earth. Does that sound like a professor, or does that sound like an 11-year-old? You can choose.
Sounds like a professor of life. I want to read more of his teachings.
I can't take it seriously. But the ranch had required construction permits to house the growing population of Rajneesh and had successfully taken over political control of the nearby town of Antelope, which had a population of 50 people, side note, by winning the majority of the city council seats. This is funny though. In the town of Antelope, they raised property taxes to get more money for their compound and named the recycling center the Adolf Hitler Recycling Center.
Probably a different one.
So why did the people of Antelope have less than warm feelings about the compound? I can guess why. I feel like he kind of set up like a mini state of communism where he was the dictator, although his teachings are against socialism and communism and for capitalism. But he still made a mini state in Oregon with communism kind of where he was the sole beneficiary. I'm confused because if they read his teachings and then they were like, but why are we then living in kind of communism?
Everybody who lives in a communist state either can't talk out against it or don't even realize.
And it kind of sounded from the interviews of the people who lived there that they didn't realize what it was. But I'm surprised that, like, why are you worshipping this man who teaches the exact opposite of what you are living for him?
Because he has so much sex.
That is an exact description of what happened with Trump. Because Trump said that he had a lot of sex, and people were like, oh, this man must be looking out for my interests. And then he did the exact opposite of their interests, and they were like, he's great. Oh, life. It's funny, isn't it?
Funny in a kind of way.
In a laugh cry emoji kind of way. Yes. But to obtain the building permits, they had set their sights on a political takeover of Wasco County as well, as they didn't have the advantage of outnumbering the citizens in this instance, as the ranch dwellers constituted a mere 10% of the population of Wasco County. I don't know how that is actually pronounced. Wacko County.
Wacko. Let's go with wacko.
So what did the Rajneeshees do? What any sane group of fanatical followers of a man owning and flaunting 98 Rolls Royces would do, they decided to poison the county's citizens. And the number of Rolls Royce is ranging from 60 to 100. I'm not sure about the exact number. I just went with the large number because it felt funnier to me.
I mean, any more than one is what I would call excessive.
he would also ride around in his Rolls Royce with all of the other Rolls Royces, and he would be like, ha ha, look at all of these people chanting my name. I've taken all of your money, spent it on the exact copy of the same car, and I'm riding around in it to show you how fucking stupid this whole thing is.
And then pops his head out like, hello, I'm in this one. Give me more money. La la la. Drive, boys, they're coming. Drive.
Give me more money. It's not like I spent it on frivolous things.
The ride in a Rolls Royce is very smooth, so if they didn't have the budget to fix the roads, then a Rolls is probably the best choice.
Okay, they decided to poison the county's citizens. So, because of the building permits, they tried to murder the county commissioners who visited the ranch by offering them water with salmonella in it, one of whom would have died without medical treatment. The salmonella was kind of special because it could be treated with antibiotics, which a lot of strains of salmonella can't. Is that correct?
I don't think it was that special.
Okay.
There's two branches of salmonella to start with. One can cause typhoid, which we discussed with old Typhoid Mary.
Yeah.
And then the other branch is non-typhoidal, so you can't get typhoid from it. This bioterror attack used a non-typhoidal type of salmonella.
Yeah.
And then under that category, there are two types. So pretty much only America get Salmonella typhimurium, and then the rest of the world get another one.
Okay.
But it's not particularly special. A lot of Salmonella is becoming resistant to antibiotics, but probably wasn't at the stage we're at now back in the 80s.
Okay. So in early September in 1984, the largest bioterror attack in US history began when a woman sprinkled a brown liquid into a salsa bucket at taco time. What time is it? It's time to talk about tacos.
I was weak.
It's funnier to me when you don't laugh. That probably says something about me psychologically.
I made a funny. Oh, it wasn't funny. That's funny. Is how I imagine your brain is going.
Probably. I'm gonna keep trying. Which also says something about me psychologically. Oh.
We're back to that old definition of insanity.
Yeah.
You try the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and then have sex with your mum.
She also squirted some of it into the salad dressing.
Bet she did.
After this, they poisoned 10 additional salad bars in the area by splashing it onto the produce and poured it into water, but not the water supply. They had hoped that this would keep the citizens of Wasco County from voting, but alas, despite 751 people falling ill and 45 being hospitalized, the locals turned up to vote against the Rajneeshee candidates as they had their suspicions of a political coup, as the cult had driven around in a Jeep with a .30 caliber machine gun mounted on it around town, which would make me suspicious of a political coup.
I mean, why didn't they do it on a Rolls Royce? You're going to get a much better ride and therefore a better aim.
It's probably more difficult to mount a machine gun on a Rolls Royce. I might be wrong. I don't know anything about cars.
You're wrong.
Either way, I find it highly disturbing. And I'm guessing the citizens of Wasco County also found it highly disturbing. They also had a peace force, in quotes, who walked around with Uzis. I don't actually know what an Uzi is, but I'm guessing it's
semi-automatic machine gun.
Oh, you didn't even Google that. You were like, Bam!
Easily mountable on the roof of a Rolls-Royce.
Hashtag just saying.
Fun fact about Rolls-Royce.
Fun fact about Rolls-Royce.
Yeah, wait for it. You'll be impressed. You can drive a Rolls-Royce and the ride is so smooth, you can have a cup of water on the engine and not spill a drop.
Ooh. Okay, maybe we should take a minute to talk about the poison.
Crime. Yeah, so salmonella, bad stuff. Nasty, nasty bug. According to CDC figures, around 40,000 cases of salmonella poisoning are reported in the US per year. They think that it's probably about threefold higher than that, but a lot of people don't get diagnosed with it because it usually goes away by itself. So from those 40,000 infections, there's around 400 deaths per year. The reason there's so many deaths is because if you have an underlying health condition, the severity of your infection can be a lot worse. So anybody who's immune compromised, including HIV/AIDS, anybody who's got diabetes. So side effects of infection are fever, cramping, abdominal pain, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, food poisoning symptoms. Comes out both ends. It typically has a 0.1% fatality rate in the developed world. So it's not a massively serious thing. And treatment for it is usually just IV fluids, unless you are one of the aforementioned vulnerable groups. Then you'll probably get a dose of antimicrobials or antibiotics. Nowadays, like you said, about 50% of Salmonella typhimurium is multi-drug resistant. So it's now a lot harder to treat with antibiotics and antimicrobials than it was. It's kind of developing into a bit of a superbug.
Oof.
One of the reasons that it can become deadly or fatal is it can lead to a condition called bacteremia, which is basically just a bunch of bacteria in your blood. Now, here's a fun thing for all of you hypochondriacs out there. You can get bacteremia from brushing your teeth too hard.
What?
Mm.
No!
Yeah.
Shit!
Yeah.
I brush my teeth so hard!
Yeah.
Oh god.
To the point where you bleed?
Most often not, but it happens.
Yeah, so a lot of the times bacteremia will clear up by itself and you will be symptomless. So things like brushing your teeth too hard is not really anything to be concerned about. It can also come from practices like having a dental hygienist clean your teeth for you.
Can it come from that, or can it be prevented from that?
It can come from that.
What?
So the bacteria on your gums and teeth and in your saliva can get into your bloodstream when you cause damage to your gums by brushing too hard, or a dentist sticking their dick in it or something. I don't know what they do. I've never had a dentist clean my teeth. It can be prevented by antibacterial mouthwash.
I do use that sometimes, so that's good.
And by regular oral hygiene. Because, keep your mouth clean, keep the bitches keen.
Life advice.
Oh, God. The list of problems that can come from bacteremia are a lot more serious than those that you would get from salmonella poisoning.
Okay.
So bacteremia can lead to sepsis, which is basically a body-wide response to an infection in your blood rather than a localized response. So usually fever, chills, but sepsis can be fatal. So go see a doctor. It can also lead to meningitis, which is an inflammation on the brain, or specifically your meninges. Pericarditis, which is the inflammation of the sac around your heart. Yeah, your heart lives in a sac. That's fun news for some people. Just like your balls. Endocarditis, which is the heart valves. Osteomyelitis, which is the bones. And arthritis, which is your joints. 4 out of those 5, all of them apart from arthritis, can be fatal. So see your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I had a fun fact about oral hygiene.
Is it keep your mouth clean, keep the bitches clean?
No, that's not a fact. It hasn't been proven. It needs study. I am ready to publish in a peer-reviewed journal, but I fear it might get thrown out. There has been a proven link between oral bacteria volume and heart attacks.
Really?
High bacterial load in your mouth, it gets into your bloodstream, pops its way down to your heart, and then it's like, what are we doing in here? Let's get out. Boom. Heart attack. Yes, I have anthropomorphized bacteria, and yes, I have simplified the process. Get over it.
For the general public's enjoyment. So, other plans that they had that were ultimately scrapped included poisoning the water supply, which I think one of them might have broken in, but then were unsuccessful.
Should have done it with Legionnaires.
Who's Legionnaires? Oh, is that Valhalla?
Not who.
No, I know what it is, but is it a reference to Assassin's Creed?
No, Legionnaires is a...
Roman.
No, that's Legionaries.
I was like, please don't sound stupid in this episode. And then that's the moment where I realized goal unsuccessful.
Legionnaires is a waterborne bacterial disease that causes quite bad pneumonia, but it's incredibly hard to pick up on and can be fatal.
Oh, God. Whew. And one other plan that they had was crashing a plane loaded with bombs into the county courthouse. They did not do that. But they also tried to win the election by promising food and shelter to 2,300 homeless people who were coerced into voting for the Rajneeshee candidates. At the ranch, they were given beer drugged with tranquilizers to keep them compliant.
Well, that'll help. You go to the courthouse and vote for Rajneeshee. Okay, drink this.
Although, if I were to get to a place and they were like free beer, I probably would have splashed it all over myself, which I almost did. I probably would have drank it.
Free beer and all the sex you could need. I don't know why anyone's criticising this place. Sure, there was a bit of poisoning, but you can look past that.
We probably would have, although we wouldn't have partaken in any sex, but we would have partaken in all of the beer, even though it was tranquilized. We would have been like, oh yeah, I sleep like a baby.
Yeah, I mean, at least we'd have slept well.
Yeah, I know, right? Although, obviously, this is horrible and deplorable, but you know, the audacity, the gall.
Also kinda dreamy. Just like Rajneesh.
He wasn't the handsomest of men. But because of this mass voter registration, Secretary of State Norma Paulus invoked an emergency rule in Wasco County that required anyone registering to vote in the county to personally appear at the local eligibility hearing. Among the issues to be considered was whether the applicants had satisfied Oregon's 20-day residency requirement to vote, which obviously the homeless people did not. In the Forensic Files episode that I watched, Bio Attack, for anyone who wants to watch it, they said that the Rajneeshees went through with the election, but another source that I read said that after all of these failed plans, the Rajneeshees withdrew its candidates and announced that they would boycott the election. One Rajneeshee resident laughed when he told the media that it was all an elaborate ruse and the county just didn't understand their sense of humor.
Oh, those fucking jokers. Poisoning people. What mad lads. Oh,
Let's.
it's all a bit of bants, isn't it? Oh.
Which, if it's not correct, then I still stand by my decision to keep it in. Because what in the fuck? But after local and federal agencies had gotten tips about the cult being behind these poisonings, they started showing interest in the goings-on at the ranch. Ranch dressing.
Put it on my ribs.
Put it on my salmonella salad.
Put it on my buffalo wings. What part of a buffalo are buffalo wings? Because buffaloes don't have wings.
I thought it was a question at first, so I was like, what? I digress.
I prefer to think of buffalo with wings, but also they'd be a lot bigger. So really, how much buffalo wing are you getting? Because they're only little, but buffalo are huge.
They're only little. I can't reach up to eat.
Don't worry, Mama Buffalo's coming. Don't know why the buffalo are Scottish.
That's a good question, man. Sheila Silverman, Rajneesh's chief lieutenant or spokesperson for the... Lieutenant, or... not this old thing again. Or spokesperson for the Rajneeshee cult, or whatever you want to call it. But it is a cult. Call it what it is. Fled to West Germany in 1985. Rajneesh then started to openly accuse Sheila of the crimes that had been committed. He also said in an interview on Wild Wild Country, and mind you, this is like a year after I actually saw it, so I don't remember that much about it, but he went on interviews and was like, oh, but Sheila, she was so angry with me because I wouldn't have sex with her. That's why she did this.
Sounds believable.
He was like an old man, and he was like, oh my god, my sex appeal is so vast that Sheila couldn't have sex with me, and then she decided to murder people. I don't know. Oh god, I got so annoyed. He went out of his pledge of silence to do these interviews, and he was like, Sheila's the bad guy. I had no idea what was going on. He's a fucking idiot. And also, people in the sect, some of them were like, Rajneesh could never hurt a person ever. He could never do that.
He wouldn't hurt a fly unless it was a particularly tasty fly.
And he was in a pledge of silence for a couple of years, so some of them had never even heard him speak. I'm like, what do you know about this person? Not one fucking thing.
Wouldn't it be really funny if he came out of his pledge of silence to all of these thousands of people that had never heard him speak in like this grand procession? I'm imagining like when a new pope is announced and he stands at the balcony and there's thousands of religious zealots beneath him chanting his praise, and then he's just like, hello people!
This is what you've been waiting for?
I'm not your messiah. I'm a very naughty boy.
What if he came out of his pledge of silence and sounded like me?
Oh, those poor cultists.
Is this what we've been waiting for?
This is what we signed up to? I'd rather go back to living on the streets. At least people threw cold McDonald's at me.
I didn't have to listen to that 8-year-old child's voice.
Didn't have to be reminded of my chronic tinnitus.
Laugh like a fucking foghorn. Oh. But okay. So the FBI was then allowed to search the Rajneeshpuram compound following Rajneesh's allegations towards Sheila, mind you, and found a lot of guns, chemicals, gas masks, and literature on how to kill, and also literature about bio-warfare. Biochemical warfare?
Technically biochemical.
Okay, so they discovered that practically every room in every building was bugged, as well as 36 voice-activated audio recorders that tapped almost every phone in the community. They also had bugs in the town of Antelope, I think. And these microphones led to a secret room in Sheila's home where she could listen in on everything. And they also led to an administration building staffed 15 hours a day. Oh. Sheila and Deanne Yvonne Unang, a doctor working at the ranch, had purchased the salmonella bacteria from a medical supply company in Seattle. When this came out, Sheila was extradited to the U.S. She said that, quote, she had talked with Rajneesh about the plot to decrease voter turnout in the Dalles by making people sick. Sheila said that Rajneesh commented that it was best not to hurt people, but if a few died, not to worry.
Fair enough. It's a good outlook to have.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, you're just going to get stressed if you worry about if people are going to die or not, so...
By my own hand? Oh, not to worry. She was actually sentenced to 20 years in prison, but served only 2.5 years before moving to Switzerland, which I'm a bit confused at how that transpired.
She was let out early for good behaviour.
She was like, bye-bye. It's also crazy. 2.5 years.
For attempted murder.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? But all right. Rajneesh was charged with lying to the INS about his intentions to move to the United States, and also because a lot of his cult members had married to bring people into the United States for green cards. He pleaded guilty to that and made a cash payment of $400,000 and was deported. But I also read that he was only deported for 5 years. So they were like, you cannot return to the United States in 5 years. He was then, I think, refused residency in a lot of countries. But I didn't write down how many countries he tried to move to, and they were like, nah.
Poor guy.
And then he changed his name to Osho, and then he died in 1990. Okay, that's the case. Did you have anything else to say about the shit that went down?
Yeah, so we probably should have mentioned that the salmonella that was recovered from the restaurants was exactly the same viral strain as the one that they recovered in the Petri dishes at the ranch. And because viruses mutate very, very rapidly, as we're seeing with COVID, it was almost like a 100% this is the same virus that's been cultured here that has been used to poison people.
Yeah.
True story, yeah.
True story, bruh.
Scary, yeah.
Scary. Oh, I peed my pants. No, I didn't. Because I went to the toilet before recording and also during the recording. What are you gonna do now?
Do a little dance.
Make a little love. Get down time.
Good one.
Make the most love that anyone ever have in the history of humanity.
Yeah, Genghis, I'm coming for your record, baby.
Genghis, I think you mean Rajneesh. That was a made-up name as well. I think his name was something else.
Alan.
Okay, thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of Midweek Murders. We'll see you next week, or will we?
Bum, bum, bum.
We'll see you next week. There we go. Less ominous that way.
Nailed it.
Nailed it like Genghis
Rajneesh.
Khan. Genghis Khan fucked.
Genghis.
Genghis Khan.
It's a hard G this time.
Can you make your mind up? Fucking English.
Just like Genghis's dick. You make your mind up. Not how language works.
Yeah. Bye bye. See you. Talk to you soon.
Oh, ciao.